right, so we'll call to order the December Board of Health meeting. All right, welcome everyone. We do have to get the meeting started. We have to be out for the Board of Commissioners to come in for a meeting this evening. So we'll start the meeting, of course, with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll move into some business. Thanks. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we do have a quorum here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, we are good. Okay, so we can begin our meeting. Okay. I did not get the minutes for the last meeting until later, so I didn't get to actually review them. I will email them to everyone on the board. If Amy, I'm not sure if Amy emailed them to just me or to everyone, but I'll make sure everybody gets a copy so we can look over those, which were pretty long from last meeting because of my long-windedness. So we will review those over the break and approve those in January. If we can move on to the health officer's report, please, Mr. Tautone.
Good afternoon to the Board of Health members and to the residents here assembled tonight. My Board of Health report for the month of November 2016 is as follows. I did 21 food safety inspections, 8 bathing place inspections, 9 quality of life inspections, ranging from dog bites on dogs, the baby snakes in the house, the raccoons. Had 1 raccoon that test positive for rabies. Accumulating trash behind a food facility, and 1 dog bite to a human. During the month of November, we put out on the news on the website information for residents regarding LIHEAP, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. Also, we put information out from Delaware County supervisors regarding multiple agencies on hand to help residents in cold winter conditions. Also, we put on online training for applied suicide intervention skills training. Also, we have the meeting dates which are scheduled for 2017 for the board's information. Mr. Chairman, so ends my report.
Thank you very much, Larry. Appreciate that. Moving on to some old business, I think we had discussed with Mr. Nagel last month about the chicken ordinance, deciding whether or not this board should give a full, detailed report to the Board of Commissioners concerning what we think is a good idea to start allowing chickens into the township as far as families raising a small number of them. Or do we just start with a recommendation from the board and then move into the details? So I felt like this month was, we had all looked over the former recommendation the board had made, and it seemed pretty reasonable. There are certainly changes that could be incorporated, and maybe some more details. So we all feel like it's a, not a free for all, but a good program for our township. But I think the start would be, again, I want to hear your input, everybody. Just to make the recommendation to the Board of Commissioners and see if we can get that at least through the Board of Commissioners, that they would be up for that, for approving wildfowl in our township. Mm-hmm.
So are we making the recommendation theoretically, or are we going to give it, with the proposed ordinance? What's the best way to do it?
Well, specifically, I think we brought that up last month with Mr. Nagel, and he suggested that, maybe we first start with just a general. The board is recommending allowing, the residents to raise a number of chickens, or we can maybe give the number, or.
I wonder if there's a way that we could get a general number of how many households in the township already have chickens, sort of a general estimate. I don't know.
We were told at the last meeting by one of our speakers that there were at least 50.
That wouldn't surprise me a bit. And then in addition to that, there's been, there's been talk that there has been chickens at the middle school for many years, or for some time. And one of the teachers from the middle school did email some board members this month and kind of give an explanation to what they're doing at the middle school right now. They actually hatch chickens at Radnor Middle School as part of their curriculum on sustainable agriculture. And they have a small pen. They're not laying eggs yet, but they will. And let's see. And then the email goes on to state, since they only participate in part of their life cycle, that the teachers who run this program are not experts and don't think they can address our topics and questions about what's the best, the suitable way to keep chickens properly in the township. However, they did make similar suggestions to people who have come into our meetings and said that there are groups in the area who do these teaching programs. And I really think that part of the wording of the board's recommendation to the Board of Commissioners should include that if you're going to be raising chickens in this township, you should have some kind of required either course or education on the proper way to do this. Yeah. Sure.
So are these chickens kept indoors? Is that the reason or is the reason that the middle school, there are different zones within Radnor in terms of, agriculture zoning versus non-agriculture zoning? So there are zones in Radnor where people actually can have chickens, like where the cattle are, that's agriculture. So are they in one of those zones? Is that the reason they can have them? Or are municipalities exempt from the non-ordinance?
These are great questions. I mean, obviously there's some sort of exemption made for the middle school, whether that's farm property or not. When you look at the old maps of Radnor Township, it certainly looks like where the middle school is now was a big open plot of farm.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It certainly could have been. So again, if we're going to make the recommendation, it's going to take a lot more research as far as the details, like you were saying, Joan, as far as how big the coops have to be, how much, all the different things that we had spoken of last month. Why don't we, I thought to myself, why not just start with the idea of, can we go through the Board of Commissioners and say, let's make a recommendation. So, the ordinance that we spoke about last month where we talked about no roosters, no slaughtering of chickens, the enclosure sizes, how far from another resident's property and all that, those kind of things can be discussed in more detail, I think, once we're, at least reassured that the board is looking to do this kind of thing rather than wasting our time, going through all the details of it and having it shot down.
Do you want me to write up something brief about it? Are we going
sure.
to attend one of the meetings to present it?
I think it's so simple that we could probably, if we vote on this, probably just make the recommendation to the Board of Commissioners today. We have 5 of us here.
I think it's time we move forward. There's
I
obviously
think
chickens in the township, chickens at the school. It's time that, as a Board of Health, we come up with a structure that they have some guidance.
Right.
But I don't want to spin our wheels and take months and months and months, and the Board Commission doesn't entertain the idea. So I think we need to move forward.
So I would think that would be my opinion as well. I've been thinking of that for the month, and I think that's not a bad idea. So if everyone seems to be in favor of that, any issues or concerns that we have with it just going that small piece forward for the board? Anyone? No? Okay. So
Let's do it.
why don't we just do it and say that the Board of Health, in our research last year into the safety, or the last few years, into the safety of having chickens around humans in the township, around well, how are we going to state that? That we're fairly sure, we are sure as the Board of Health, that it's safe for our township to have these wild animals in their in people's homes, or on people's properties rather. And we would like the Board of Commissioners to consider this. And if the Board of Commissioners feels like this is something that they would approve, then we will go into some more details about how to regulate this and make it as orderly as possible. Okay. So is everyone in favor, and that was long-winded, but is everyone in favor of recommending to the Board of Commissioners that chickens be allowed in Radnor Township under the caveat that we would sort out the details further? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Any no's? No. Okay. So that will be done. I will write up a formal letter and send it to the Board of Commissioners saying that we have recommended that chickens be allowed, and we will move from there if it's approved. Okay. Hey, we got another vote done. All right. Okay. So moving on to some other old business. Last month, we spoke at length about a resident concern about turf field recommendations. And again, this one has slipped a little bit by me this month with all of some other things that I was involved with. But there is a large packet that this resident sent us. And I was going to scan this and send it to everybody because I think we need a few people to look through some of these articles. There are literally 30 or 40 separate articles in this packet that I think deserve some research. And this does take time. I did this a few years ago with glyphosate and went through about 30 or 40 articles that were published about glyphosate, which is Roundup, which is the weed spray. And it took a good amount of time to sort of to make a report on that and kind of give our Board of Health's opinion on glyphosate use. So I would appreciate if someone would help with this. So over this month, if somebody could take a few of these articles and I can take a few and we can kind of read through and kind of come up with a summary of opinions on the articles that were presented to us by the Delaware Riverkeeper Network on the impacts of artificial turf. Some of the impacts in this article are about how the heat changes because of the surface. It doesn't absorb heat like a regular grass field would. And does that change the composition of the chemicals in the field? So it's pretty complicated stuff. It's not just simple, does the little pellets, do the little pellets have cancerous issues, or does the field grass, the artificial turf, cause some environmental impact? It's a little bit more detailed than that. So let me try to make a copy for anyone who would be interested in kind of joining my committee on this.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Fire.
I mean, we did a review of scientific literature on this issue last year. So my question actually is that when we made our recommendation, it was in the context of the current situation. We have not been charged with recommending spending millions of dollars to rip out all the fields and replace them. That would require a whole different discussion. So first of all, I believe this is a little bit repetitive within the year, but secondly, it's the question of what should kids do now is different than the question of what ideally, if money were no object, should the township do?
That's a great point. I think that's a solid point. I don't know what the result of this will be. I think it's more of sort of my feeling that if a township resident has true concerns about something that we've recommended, should we review new information that's come to us? Not necessarily that it's going to lead to a new recommendation, but that it's going to lead to us at least understanding the new information and trying to process it and see if this would lead to further questions later on. But I totally understand what you're saying. And it does sometimes feel like you spin wheels in science, I guess, because you're sort of, reviewing the newest thing. Everything can change, it seems like, with one scientific article. So I think it's only fair to go through these, see how impactful some of them are these large studies, small studies, in reputable magazines, reputable journals, and so on. So I think out of fairness, I would want to do that. And I'm certainly happy to chair the committee to do that. I just think I need a couple
I'm happy to do that with you.
Yeah.
And I also remember that we were waiting for the CDC to come out with a large examination of all the literature, so I don't know.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, we can see if they've done that.
Yeah.
So I'd like to echo what you said, because I thought we had a very comprehensive lecture on that turf field management, and forgive me because I can't remember the person's name, but I'm sure, is it on the Radnor website, the information, that presentation?
It's in the minutes from the
And I
meeting
think
that
the
was last
presentation,
spring.
I don't know, did we record that? Because all the meetings are recorded, so that information would be on record as well, that recommendation by the turf fields. There was a lot of information presented. So just to ask, is this a new article that was put out by?
Well, it's actually a series. Like I said, it's about 40 or so articles of different, different websites, different magazines, and some of them are newer, some of them are older. So some of these were, I would imagine, as we go through them, would be quoted in some of the CDC reviews they've done, but some of them may not. Some of them may be
So I'm
new to us.
curious if we could find the person who did the presentation and have, query that person and have them look at the literature and see maybe it's already, I just don't want to
think it was one of
duplicate work.
Amy's
It was
students.
one of his students at
Yeah,
Jefferson
at
in the public
Jefferson.
health department.
Yeah.
He was
So it
working on his
might be,
master's degree. Yeah.
right, so I'm wondering if we could touch base,
Maybe
because
talk
they
to-
probably did a comprehensive lit search and
Yeah.
has reviewed some of that data already.
That's a good point. Thank you,
For
Linda.
somebody that really doesn't know that information off the top of my head as a healthcare provider, it would be difficult for me to decipher some of those chemicals and what's involved.
Yeah. So let me get in touch with Amy. Amy couldn't be here tonight concerning her student and see if he has, maybe I can get him a copy of this packet and get him to kind of make a comment and see if some of that was already in his presentation that he just sort of filtered into his overall article. That's a fine idea, Linda. It may save me some time and Nancy some time too. Thank you. Good idea. Okay. I don't know if anybody on the board got to go to the CICD Care Group meeting on December the 1st. I was unable to get there. But I was doing some research this month about air quality and what really needs to be done at a construction site and who regulates all this. And there's a lot of just general information out there, but not much real, hard-hitting information out there about what we do about a large construction site that's generating a lot of dust and whatnot. There is, the OSHA regulations are more for, it looks like for worker safety in large construction sites for falls and also chemicals and also large power plants and things. But the Clean Air Act definitely is a the Clean Air Act. I have notes on this. Hold on. Got to be there somewhere. Yeah. So the Clean Air Act actually is the thing that we have to that has some regulation about dust and particles on sites, and there is a state agency that helps with this. Flipping through, here we go. Here it is. So the EPA and the Clean Air Act gets involved with the state implementation plans for construction sites, and their compliance is managed by the property's construction team. And there is a website that residents, if they're concerned, can go to on the epa.gov and report things or ask questions about if a state implementation plan has been followed for a construction site. But there's no specific regulations about how much dust and things like that I could find anywhere, and even making a couple of phone calls to the local OSHA office, nobody had any real solid information for me. But I was going to look at the minutes of the meeting and see if there's any more public, questions and any more answers about the current state of the Villanova construction. Did they start the parking lot, the whole destruction
No.
yet, or is that this spring?
I haven't started yet. I don't
Haven't
know
started yet?
when.
Okay.
So let me just get this straight. So
Because
This-
the new structure will be finished in January.
January, yeah. So the Villanova, the project construction team has filed with the state their plans, and then the state EPA is responsible for reviewing those plans for the air quality. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, and it's no specific machinery that has to be on site to detect
Okay.
anything, nothing that I could find about that. The OSHA person that I spoke with did not have any information about specific, detecting of that. But it's more of, they have to submit their plan, what they're going to do, and then, sort of comply with how they want, I guess. I don't really have any other information for us. I really do. I wish I could have been at the CICD meeting so I could really hear what their plans were.
Yeah, I wish I had been able to as well. The township can go above and beyond, though, and I think, I drive past this site every day, taking my kids to school, and I think, the students, the Villanova students, are walking through a lot of dust. And as a parent of a Villanova student, if I were a parent of a Villanova student, I wouldn't be thrilled about that. So I think there are some easy things that they're not doing, such as having tarps, which I often see in front of construction sites. I often see tarps. I see really high fences, higher than the fences that are used, and I see tarps that at least help to contain the dust. And I don't see that at the Villanova site. And with the great number of students walking past there, it surprises me. So.
I thought you had a comment, I'm sorry. Yeah, certainly from the point of view of, a resident, you do see a lot of dust and a lot of students walking through that dust. But I think the biggest part of this coming up is going to be that destruction of the parking lot that they were talking about? Okay.
The bridge.
The bridge construction.
That's going to be done at night.
Okay.
The bridge over Lancaster Avenue to the church, that bridge.
So that's
But
something
they still have
that-
to rip up the asphalt parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something I think we, between now and the January meeting, one of us should sort of, by email, get in touch with each other and figure out if we can either attend the next meeting and figure some recommendations or some other things that the Board of Health can contribute to this, but I don't have an answer yet.
Does
on
anybody
this
know
one.
when that next meeting is?
Let's see here. Is it the first?
Our
No, wait.
next meeting is January.
The first Thursday of the month? Okay.
First
so
Thursday?
First Thursday of January, which would be the 5th, right? Yeah. We are around, so maybe I can do it.
January, wrong year.
17th.
Got to get the right year.
All right, so maybe we can go and make one of us can go.
That's a meeting at Villanova.
It's at the Township building.
When is that?
Here, January 5th. Did anybody know a time?
Let's see, last time
Time?
was 6:30.
6:30.
Last time was 6:30 at the December 1st meeting. Okay.
And that's to discuss is that for a permit to do that work, or the plans? They have to submit the plans, just for clarity?
Each of these meetings, it looks like they discuss a lot of things, everything from, planning to, this last meeting, they discussed dust. Yeah, that's the November meeting, I'm sorry, they discussed the dust issue. They also talk about different, overall construction site safety, Lancaster Road traffic and traffic mitigation, project schedules, all that kind of thing, so.
So did you want to formulate some questions to present, have one of us there? I think would be a good idea. Like if we were talking about maybe having higher fencing and the particles and when this is going to happen, and maybe the campus would be informed to alert students. I don't know, just some ideas that we might.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible, too, to offer students masks as they walk? It's not a very expensive thing to have a paper mask on if you're walking around. If you want to offer to students, I'm sure none of them would wear them, but maybe they would if we offered them. Alerts to students, possible questions about masks, higher fences and tarps. And, is, like Joan had just said, the township and the state can go above and beyond what the EPA recommends. Are there any plans to go above and beyond and do some testing? But this shouldn't be too difficult to get some answers, I hope. Okay. If anybody has any more suggestions, I think like I said, I'm home, so I'm going to try to do my due diligence to get to this meeting on the 5th of January.
And just let us know if you can.
All right. And Ms. Winters, I believe you left us some information about sleep. Thank you. I appreciate that. I will be in touch with you as well to talk about maybe speaking to us some on this very topic in the new year. Okay. All right, so on to some new business. We had an email discussion a little bit this month from one of our students about their intern project. Was it your project, your intern project that you were working on, or was it your partner that you were deciding on?
I think it was my partner's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to Joanna when she comes in next time because she's not here tonight. So that'll take something off the agenda there. Okay. So Teen Health Week is coming up in January, and boy, oh boy. Not a whole lot has been done quite yet. On our point of view from the Board of Health, I really hope that the high school and the middle school have some plans. I'm 100% sure of what's going on with the high school and the middle school and what some of the plans are, but obviously there's many different things that that the high school and the middle school students can do to help commemorate Teen Health Week. I believe in the February meeting, Nancy, you're going to present on something with January? Okay. Okay. Yeah. The January meeting will have elections, so I can't absolutely say who's going to be running the board in January after the elections, but we should have some time in the January meeting to do that presentation, I think. So we'll start with that one in January. And Dr. Offit, who invented and started Teen Health Week, also sent out an email to myself and to Mr. Kane over at Radnor Schools that there is a couple of speakers that are available to speak. There's also a woman from Villanova who is willing to sit out and talk about nutrition and friendly nutrition handouts to give to students as they enter for lunch. And the date that she would think would be the natural fit for this person would be January 9th, since it is the first day of the fitness part of Teen Health Week. So I'm not sure if the school has contacted Dr. Offit concerning that speaker. Does anybody else have any? Amy was supposed to speak a bit about the Teen Health Week and things, but she couldn't be here tonight. Does anybody have any other Teen Health Week input or information? I'm kind of stuck with that one. Okay. All right. So next month is the Board of Health election meeting. So we will be electing a chair and a co-chair next month. And depending, I think, on my term and when it ends and when Amy's term ends, will depend a lot about who can run for that. So if anybody's interested in organizing, this agenda each month and would take on that job, something to think about for next month before we move into elections, and we can discuss that through the month via email as well, if you guys if anybody has any interest in that. And also about next month's meeting date, which I think would be, it's scheduled, says, for Tuesday, January 17th. Larry, is that correct, because of the Martin Luther King holiday?
That is correct, because of the holiday. And if you notice, February is the same way.
Right. So that has been tradition in the years past, that the January and February meetings are usually on Tuesday nights because of the two federal holidays that fall on the third Monday of the month. So if there's any issues or concerns anybody has about not being able to make that meeting, anybody who has problems on Tuesdays in general? Anybody? No? Pretty good? Okay. So we can probably leave that as is, and we will get in touch with the members who aren't here tonight about if they can make that meeting. Okay. Any other new business anybody has until we meet again in in January of 2017? No? Okay. So just a couple of quick announcements then, and we'll ask for any public participation as well. But flu vaccines are still available, and they should be given through the flu season, which lasts into March. So probably if you want to get your good immunity, probably get your vaccine, by early January would probably be the best way to go. So you get your 3 weeks to get your immunity going. The Wayne Senior Center is obviously I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but they obviously have a lot of programs, and they're excellent as far as their little handouts they have out for everybody. So if there's seniors in the community who are looking for activities and for classes and for everything, boy, they do everything here. Zumba, their calendar and their programs are all available. I believe they're in the Township building too, these handouts. Got that in the mail. Was there anybody have any other announcements? I had one or two more if I can find them in my mess here. Any other announcements this month? No? Okay. All right. Any public input tonight? Thanks. Just introduce yourself, please, again.
Good evening, Roberta Winters, 326 Williams Road, and I'm really pleased that the Board of Health has taken on some of the information that I brought to you last month regarding the air quality issues at Villanova and also the teen sleep matters. One of the things I would suggest regarding the Villanova Construction is those CICD meetings are televised, and you can go on YouTube and watch them if you've missed them. And I would also urge you to be in contact with Commissioner R., who is chairing those meetings, so that you might want to get whatever you want to say on the agenda. This is a meeting that involves both the community and Villanova residents, so that we can share ideas, and so we don't want to blindside anybody on this. So I think it's important that you put it on the agenda and discuss, your concerns, speaking not only for the students of Villanova, but remember we have residents with small children and elderly people who are significantly impacted by air quality issues, as well as the students, and they're there 24 hours a day. I would also like to mention, in terms of the Teen Sleep Week, if you're looking for some options, I don't think it's out of order to suggest that the importance of teen sleep might be mentioned as an area that might want to be discussed at both the middle school and high school level. It's not only a matter of concern that the students need to be aware of, but also their parents, because I think it's sometimes a contributing factor to some of the behavior that we attribute to adolescence. I did give you some information done by the Chester County Intermediate Unit that was done by students there in their study of sleep, and also some general recommendations for students under the age of 13, which was provided by a psychologist in the Westchester area. But it's just sort of fast and dirty. But I think it might be informative to you and to others. And I know Mr. Kane is familiar with our work. And finally, I would hope that you will continue to discuss the turf recommendations, as I know there are pros and cons, and certainly from a financial perspective, you look at things like watering and maintenance and so forth. But I know as people concerned about students' health, it's important to focus on that, and it is an evolving, moving target, and we continue to find out more information, and the makeup of those fields change. I mean, I was involved with the school district when they had this Give Grass a Chance committee that went on and on and on. So, I mean, it's not something that has not been discussed. But again, it's an area of evolving science information. I think with your expertise, your opinions are highly valued. And finally, the only thing I would suggest to you is that perhaps at our next meeting, I will provide in advance a resolution regarding teen sleep. I believe there will be some legislation being introduced in Harrisburg to do a study at the statewide level by the Department of Education to look at student sleep and its impact on students, and looking at all the variables and ramifications because of the interconnected natures of our schools and busing and so forth. It's important that we look at this from the big picture perspective. So I believe I will have perhaps a resolution. I think it's being introduced by Representative Briggs in a neighboring district, but I think it might be worthy of your consideration to consider supporting a resolution to look at this issue in a broader perspective. Thank you.
One question, please. Which commissioner did you say was involved in the CICD care group?
It's Phil R., AHR. He's also the chair of the
Got it.
Board of
I didn't know
Commissioners.
which one it was. Yep. Okay. So trying to get in touch with him, obviously don't want to, I would like to be on the agenda if I'm going to attend the meeting so they know that we're coming. Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Winters.
Good evening. My name is Tony Bailey. I live in the 7th Ward. Last Monday night at the Board of Commissioners meeting, I had brought up, again, about the air dust, the air pollution. At the December 1st CARE meeting, Villanova very kindly brought in their own expert, Alice Lengthy, who gave an explanation about measuring air quality. At that time, I felt that the township should hire their own expert and give their own findings and rendition of what they feel this is all about. And I understand that from some of my neighbors that at the last Board of Health meeting, you brought this up, and thank you so much. And then it was kicked back to the CARE meeting, and then there wasn't a lot of action, so that's when I brought it before the board because this is an extremely important issue. It's not just pertaining to students. There are neighbors, lots of neighbors around, including myself, who likes to walk her dog up there. And as a graduate of Villanova University and taking great pride of being a graduate of Villanova, I hope that they will be good stewards not only of their students but also the community.
Close do you live to the campus?
Well, that particular part that's being built up around 0.7 of a mile.
Do you notice any increased particulate matter, like, for example, on your car windshield? Have you noticed a difference that you can see?
I've noticed over the past, let's say, year, a lot more dust in my house.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
And thank you so much again.
I made it. Anyway, Jane Galley, 143 Barclayton Road in Rosemont. I live down closer to Villanova than she does. Anyway, I am on the care committee, by the way, and I have brought this up, and that was when Villanova kindly brought their expert. But my problem is that there is no OSHA standards for what goes into the air. I mean, Steve Norsini said, well, we just kind of do an eyeball test. And I'm going, okay, but can you see 0.5 microns? I mean, not me. And eyeballing it doesn't, and the problem I see is you are digging up almost 13 acres worth of asphalt that's been there since my husband lived here since 1958, and he used to play on that parking lot. So, I mean, I have read some articles that said that, older asphalt and stuff had asbestos in it. Now, asbestos is fine as long as you don't disturb it. But no, it's the fact that it's not required, which seems amazing to me in this day and age. But the fact is, we don't know what we're digging up and what's sending up into the atmosphere that we live with. I've lived here 38 years, that I'm going to have to live with while they build it for the next 4. I mean, it's going to be gorgeous when it's finished. I just want to make sure that we don't have people getting ill because we want to get to something beautiful. Caution is my inside feelings. So that's my soapbox for the day.
You said you're on the committee. Were there any talk about core samples of this property prior to breaking up the asphalt?
It's not required, so Villanova won't do it. So, well, yeah, they said no. So it's just, this is my parish, this is my community. These are Augustinians that I agree, live with. And I think the community that St. Augustine was speaking about was not just Villanova. It's the community that we all live in, and we have to breathe the air, and we have to live with each other. So we just are bringing it up. If someone says, you know what, we're all great, we're all good, I have no problem. Go for it. But I don't know how much it costs. I don't know what it would require to just dig down and take out a core sample and see what's in there. But I can't believe in a $300 million building that they can't find a couple thousand, 10,000, or whatever it is to do this. So that's just me. So we're bringing it up to you guys too.
Just a question. Have you directly asked them if they're going to core, and they have said it's not required,
It's
air
not
quotes?
required, right. And neither is any air sampling. It's not required.
Okay. I think OSHA, the problem is OSHA deals with worker safety.
Correct.
And I think we need to look at the EPA side and the Air Quality Act, because I think that is the layer that we may be missing.
Yes. And I have called the DEP and talked to their liaison, and he said he would get back to me, and I've sent him emails, but he hasn't gotten back to me. So I'm not sure whether, he doesn't have an answer, so he doesn't get back to me or whatever. But I have spoke with a very nice man, but, nothing came of it. So. Okay.
Because what we found, if that is true, they filed plans with the state, with the EPA, then I would assume, not knowing much about that, then the EPA has asked, well, are you sampling?
Right.
That seems to me to be part of the process that I just think we're maybe asking the wrong question.
We may be
per
asking,
se, yes.
Yes. They call it fugitive particulates. I'm going,
Fugitive
cool.
particulate. Okay. Thank you.
Particulates. So it's like, I don't know how many fugitive particulates there are.
Thank you, Jane.
I have 2 thoughts. sounds like this is an OSHA issue. If they choose not to deal with it, then they choose not to deal with it.
Right.
But maybe they should deal with it. But if they choose not to deal with it, and if the EPA chooses not to deal with it, I think those are sort of extraneous points if we want to deal with it, because we
Right.
can go above and beyond, and we can require it. So
Right.
We could recommend that the township do something. I
we could,
think. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
we could, the township could require it.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's something to think about, because we are then going to be digging up a huge chunk of property over where Wyeth was, so here we go again. You know, like it's, hello, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's been quiet and in the ground as it is, but
And
now-
I agree with you that it would be very unlikely that there wouldn't be asbestos in there. That there would not be. Unlikely that there would not.
I mean,
Likely that there would
Granted,
be.
maybe the first 2 inches since they were put out, you know, as they repaved, but what's at the bottom, I have no clue. It's been there a long time, so, and I don't think they redug it up every time they repaved it, so. It's just a question, and I don't, whatever. It's,
No, and I think it's hard for us to come to a judgment because we don't know what we don't know. We don't
That's
know what
correct.
we're dealing with. From a health perspective, it's hard for us to make a justification
Right.
that we need to make, we can recommend, we can ask, but we think we have to ask the right questions from the right agency to get the right answers before we can.
I agree.
I think we need to pursue it, though, absolutely.
if we could figure out which one that was.
Yeah, well, I think we may have gotten to a little bit of a nugget of a bottom in there.
When is that?
Maybe we
when is-
chipped it.
Yeah.
When will that begin?
It
That phase
starts
of-
in January. They're
In
going to,
January.
as soon as they get the parking lot finished
Right.
and up and running, then they may start phase 2 and begin the bridge and then the parking lot.
Okay, so there's not a whole lot of time to
Nope.
get
So
this.
we've been asking this
moving.
since October, but
Okay.
so just thought we'd let you guys know too. Thank you very much.
Just to follow up a little bit, when I emailed Commissioner R., he emailed me back that he said that they use BMP, Best Management Practices. So that doesn't mean a whole lot to me as a layperson. You know, what's the criteria for that? How high is the bar set? How low is the bar set? Exactly what is the standard? It doesn't mean, you know, it might mean they use best practices for them, but maybe not for the overall health and well-being of the community. And I expressed to the Board of Commissioners, you know, for a set of 7 who put their hands on the Bible and took an oath to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, not just of the 7th Ward or the 6th Ward, but in the entire Radnor Township. This is an extremely important issue, and thank you again.
Thanks, everybody, for your input. We appreciate that. And I think, yeah, I mean, we do have to get on this. And hopefully, communicating with Commissioner Eyre, we can figure out if we can get on this more quickly. I think it's deeper than we thought without having any kind of core samples and knowing what's there. And it really is worrisome. And I don't know a whole lot about asphalt and if asbestos was used in asphalt back in the day. I don't know a whole lot about it.
And I don't know either, but I'm wondering if there were other, you know, over time, over these years, other structures, other homes that have been on there, on that property that may have been knocked down and they contained asbestos. So, you know, it's very possible that somehow over the course of however many years, asbestos somehow got in, or even other things that we don't even know that could potentially be damaging.
It is concerning. I'm glad we're at least informing the public to also be aware. Kevin, real quick before we go, any report from the district about cases of pertussis? There has been an outbreak of pertussis in many districts around the state. Any information you have?
No new information regarding pertussis. As we talked about before, we followed the Department of Health. In regards to Teen Health Week at our high school, we are having Rebecca Shankman, who's the director of the McDonald Center for Obesity at Villanova. She's going to be on site during Teen Health Week, as well as Mainline Health, Heart Health for Teens. They're going to be on site as well.
Thank you very much. All right. So any other input from the public? No. So we will let the Board of Commissioners have their meeting here tonight then. We will see everyone in the new year. Please, everyone, have a safe and happy holiday season. Enjoy and have a great new year. And I will see everyone back in 2017 on Tuesday. What is it now? January 17th. Thank you.